Greetings, shop rats. Welcome back. Today we are disassembling this entire front suspension out of the Stitches Challenger. Remember that the work that we do here can apply to anything you're doing. Even though this is a MOPAR project, the basic principles are the same. Let's watch the show intro. I'll see you in about 30 seconds on my... This is my car shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is my car's shop.
One of the challenges that I definitely face in doing 3 episodes a week on the channel, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that right now. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps out all of us here a whole lot, and there's probably stuff that would benefit you as well. So we're just winning. It's a win-win. One of the challenges that I face in doing so many episodes a week is I don't often have a lot of time to do other things around the shop that need to be done. Like when we dropped all the suspension out of this car, it all was right on the floor, and I was on to the next 4 or 5 episodes of making floor pans and just trying to continue to turn out that content for you. But today's the day. The weather's nice. The 47 Ford can sit outside. We've got some space.
The final frontier.
We've got some room. And I want to get this suspension torn down into manageable pieces so that I can move it around and squirrel it away. And, well, I can move it because it's really, really heavy right now. So we're going to go through that. We got some new tools for the shop I'm going to share with you here in just a minute. But let's get after it. Too much talk. All we do is talk. Let's stop talking and let's start rocking. So here's our package. It came from that that Harbor Freight place. Thank you, Colleen. I haven't looked at this yet, obviously. It's brand new, open package yet. But I was thinking about when I was tearing the front suspension apart on the car, and I was down there with my pickle fork beating away at my left hand that I play guitar with, and realized there's better ways to do this, and I'm not getting any younger. Those old bones don't heal as well as they used to, and even though I try to wear gloves so that at least the bones are all in a bone bag and the blood gets soaked up by the cloth, it's probably better to have another way. So what I did was I got on the Harbor Freight website and I went out and bought a couple of fickle porks for my air chisel. So we're going to put these to the test today, one for tie rods and one for ball joints, and see if these things work at all or not. Did I just waste 20 bucks? I don't know. So I just spent a whole bunch of time trying to get the pins out, and of course they're all mushroomed over, so this one broke off. I'll get it out of there later. Let's go ahead and just get this strut rod off, maybe. Okay, we managed to not screw up the thread, so we got to lather, rinse, repeat on the other sides. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pop the steering box off now, but I wanted to make a note that you see these bolts, they're not just your standard 6-point bolt. And I saw somebody asking something on, I think it was an A-body forum, about these bolts and who screwed them up and what's wrong with them and blah, blah, blah. Nothing. It's a 12-point bolt. It's that simple. You're not going to get it off there with a 6-point socket. You have to have a 12-point socket, which everybody has. And I don't know why Chrysler did that, but maybe because they're specialty bolts and special hardness, and they didn't want them confused with other things. I don't know. Somebody probably knows the reason. Quite frankly, I don't care, but I did want to point that out. There's nothing wrong with these bolts. That's just the way they are. So some of the young guys may not know stuff like that, and us old farts need to educate them so that, I felt bad for the kid. He just didn't know. That's all it is. So just to clarify the difference between a 6-point and a 12-point, I always prefer to use a 6-point whenever possible because there's less chance of rounding the heads off. But I have the 12 points, and you can see that it has 12 points in the socket amongst all that worn out dirt versus 6 points. So you've kind of got to have both, but I generally gravitate to the 6s. Pitman arms are expensive. I don't know if this one's good or not. I'll check it, but I really try to be careful not to mess it up because I don't want to have to buy one unless I have to. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention on all this front stuff is I'm not just going to buy all new tie rod ends and all that stuff. I'm going to check them. If they're not worn out, why bother spending the money? Stuff isn't cheap. Some of you may disagree with that, but I don't care. My car, my rules, right? I mean, any one of these things runs, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 bucks a piece. I don't know what they're running anymore. Pitman arms, I know, have been really pricey. So I'd rather use a good part than just throw it away. And just so you know, that Pitman arm is shot. The end is catchy and wobbly, so it's junk. As far as the rest of our tie rod ends, I'm just going to take the cutoff wheel and the cotter pins off, just so I can get a socket over it and buzz them out. If it ruins it, it ruins it. I don't care. I'll probably try to be careful on the idler arm, but other than that, you know, I'm going to use as much as I can, but if something gets ruined in this process, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The other thing I'll do is put a little note just to remind myself which side was the driver's side. Could I figure it out? Doesn't matter. Yes, I could figure it out. Doesn't matter. I don't know. Why have to spend time figuring it out later when I can put a piece of tape on there that will fall off in 6 months and then have to figure it out anyway? The other thing is I'm not going to bother splitting the ball joints off the control arms at this point. I'm just going to pull the control arms out. Leave those as an assembly. So this has front drum brakes on it. I have an extra set, or 6, of disc brakes for an A body here. And what we did on the 69 Charger was put a set of A body discs on the front of the B body. I'm 90% sure we can do the same thing here. I'll have to do some magic and some research and some other stuff and figure out exactly what we need, but generally all it takes is different lower ball joint, and the spindle will go right on there and then go into the upper ball joint. We might need to change those upper control arms right over there. I don't know. I don't remember what we did on the Charger, but Joe, if you remember, which I'm sure you do because you did all of that yourself for the most part, and I was just the commentator in the background and kibitzer. Whatever we did, I don't remember, but you might remember. Anyway, so yeah, I'm pretty sure we would need probably need these upper control arms. I know on an A body you have to change the upper control arms because the ball joints are different, or at least you have to change the ball joint. I don't remember what we did on the B body. So we'll figure that out. I'm just looking at these, I'm thinking these might be a little bit bigger and we might need to change the ball joints. The taper on the ball joint sometimes between a drum brake spindle and a disc brake spindle could be different, and you don't want to use the wrong ball joint. Let me take you over to the whiteboard and explain. Get you guys at a place here where the glare is minimized. Okay, so you have a taper on the ball joint, like so, and it has a thread, okay? And then in the spindle itself, there is also a taper, okay? And this goes down through, and of course your nut goes on down here. The thing we need to be cognizant of is this taper, the angle of this taper, and the angle of this taper. So let me draw that for you, what can happen if you're not using the right ball joint with the right spindle. This is our spindle with its taper. If your ball joint has a taper, let's say that is less than this taper, so it's like this, when it goes down in there, it doesn't engage properly. So our angle may be here like this. Okay, we have all of this gap in here. When we wedge this down, we only have a small amount of engagement, if you will. This can break right here and go flying out, and then you go flying off the road or flying into somebody or whatever. You can also go the other way, where this taper here and this taper here is wider, okay? I'm exaggerating to prove the point. So you tighten down the nut, you're only engaging a little bit here. Over time, this is flopping around and it eventually breaks and goes flying out, and you go flying into somebody or flying into the ditch. I don't want you to hurt yourself, so do your research. Just know that you got to make sure that these tapers are right. You can measure all that out, but we have this amazing thing called the worldwide interwebs, and all this information is out there. Just make sure it's coming from a reliable source, because that's important. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take these nuts off, and of course as this nut loosens, it's going to jam this impact on against the K-frame, and then everything's going to get stuck, so that'll be great. Forgot to put the doobie-dauber on there. Let's find the doobie-dauber. Here it is. Gotta go to the O'Reilly's and get some new doobie-dauber or one of the other local auto parts. But that's okay. One down. Hot nuts, hot nuts, woo! Okay, now we can just kind of shoot that out of there, and hopefully we can get it out without having to take the control rod or the strut rod off. And there we have our Special K. I had mentioned about reusing as many parts as possible, but one thing I did want to mention is I always put new bushings in the lower control arms because they are usually one of the first parts to fail. I've never used polyurethane ones, never had rubber ones fail on all the cars I've done, but I noticed that Scoops is starting to go bad. Probably the lower control arm bushings, the wheels are starting to kink a little bit, and probably gonna have to put a set in that. I didn't put those in there. Brad, I think you can tell me, you put those in there probably 30 years ago when we first met. Has it been that long? Not quite that long, 25 years ago, something like that. So I guess the window of time would be that probably if you're going to keep the car for over 20 years, use polyurethane, because everything else I have around here that I put rubber in was put in less than 20 years ago and they're still good. But I would bet in the next 5 years they're going to fail. And that seems right because rubber deteriorates over time. So it had nothing to do with the work that Brad did or the quality of the parts. Just an observation on my part that long ago, it's probably time they're probably deteriorated again. So I think on this one, we might go ahead and put the polyurethane in there. Which means that once I get this torn apart here, I will also put polyurethane here, because having polyurethane down there and not up here would cause for some dissimilar deflection. I'm not going to road rally this car, but I'm just thinking about longevity and durability for the long time, which is longevity. So there we go. I'm repeating myself redundantly again. I'm repeating myself. Let me say that again. I'm redundant. I'm repeating myself. It's like deja vu all over again. And there we have it, where we had one big piece that was a mess. Now we have a bunch of pieces that are a mess. But the difference is I can pick that stuff up and move it around now. It's not unmanageable, and that was part of the point of this. Plus, we can take that K-frame to the local car wash and that clean so we can get that painted up. I could possibly sandblast it, but I probably won't. Just a good power wash with some
Super clean.
should do the job for us. And while I'm at that, I'm going to go ahead and find a place to squirrel that rear end out of here, get those springs put upstairs out of the way. This is just debris from working on those floor pans that you've seen, and in our next episode, we're going to be making this next chunk in some varying fashion or degree, whether it's just this piece and then we'll make that, or I don't know, maybe we'll make it in 3 pieces, maybe we'll make it in 1. No, we won't do that, but we'll start working on that. Another question for you guys. This hump is cut out, 4-speed hump in an E-body. Send me pictures. I understand that it's different than the automatic hump, and well, let me show you something. Something that I was not expecting to do with this car was make it a pedal car. Lo and behold, I was able to work out a deal with one of my buddies in the last week or so that I think we're going to make it a tri-pedal instead of a 2-pedal, and put a 4-speed in it. And I've got the transmission and most of the bits lined up, probably a couple little things. I was not going this direction with the car because of the cost. I was just going to put an automatic in it. But I think the only thing I'm lacking now is a big block bell housing, and I might have one of those around here. I have to look. I don't think so, but we'll find one. But this was a surprise I wasn't expecting. But the neat thing about this, look at these pedals. These are like brand new. And I want to make it clear that these are not replacement pedals. This came out of a car with very low mileage. You can see a little bit of wear there on the brake, a little bit on the clutch, not much. This car was a 1971 Challenger that was wrecked. Fairly low mileage car. Basically, the rear bumper was in the back seat when it was wrecked, and it was parked behind a garage for probably more than 10 years. And a buddy of mine picked it up and used it for parts. I don't remember what he did with it. He's going to try to find me some pictures of the car. These pedals came out of that very, very low mileage 71 yellow and black Challenger, I think it was. So he's had these all these years since the 80s, and he reached out the other day and said, hey, I got something that you're going to want. So got the pedals, got a deal on the transmission lined up. So we're really close to being able to put this as a big block. Now, there's one other issue that we have to address here, and that is on my 440. That crankshaft right there is not drilled. And that's a problem if you're going to use a stick, because you have to tear the motor apart, take the crank out, and get it machined, and there's just a lot of stuff you got to do. Am I going to do any of that? Nope, I'm not. We're going to run a 4-speed, and we're not going to drill the crank like that. Same thing that my son did on his big block in his Charger. There is a trick using a Dakota pilot bearing that presses into the back of the crank as it exists today, as it's machined. And we have a plate assembly around here somewhere with a big drill, and you put the drill into this plate assembly and you drill into the back of that crank, not for the pilot bushing, just for clearance, because you're dealing with it with a pilot bearing used out of a Dakota. So that's down the road a ways, but we've already done it. It works well. It's done on the 69 Charger. If you want to know more about that right now before I get to it, Google it on the interweb thing. You can find that information out there. It's a great way to go when you have a motor that's not drilled for a stick.
So much winning, I can't stand it.
That didn't take that long, but I'm tired. Wow. I'm going to stop on that project there today. Don't go anywhere. I got stuff to say and stuff to share. You're going to want to stick around. Just settle down. Settle down. I'm going to get the shop cleaned up today. One of the projects I want to do is get my welding bench out and get the metal tops put on. And I don't know if I'll get to that today, but the warmer weather is coming. And this is a month ahead of where you're seeing it. So by the time you see this, the warmer weather should already be here. But that's one of those little projects. I want to ask you the question. Do you want to see a project like that? Fixing up my welding bench a little bit and putting some casters on and just let me know, drop it down there in the comments. What else do you want to know about stitches? I'll try to share everything I can. Big progress on this. I'll throw that K-frame in the back of my truck one day when I'm on my way to work. I'll swing in the local car wash. The one I used to use that didn't care about parts washing, they'd closed, unfortunately. But there's another one about 30 miles from here where my office is that I can use. The other one in town, they're funny about stuff like that. And some of you say, why don't you just get a pressure washer? Because that's one more piece of equipment that I have to maintain, and I already have about 10 small engines around here to maintain. I don't want another one. I'd just as soon go rent one as do that. So car wash generally works for the most part. All right, I think that'll do it for today on this episode. Next up, we're going to work on that floor pan stuff. I'm pretty sure, and hopefully you'll see this place a little bit just, better. So we'll see. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram /MyCarShop. You're here on the You thing. Hit like, subscribe, hit that bell so you receive those notifications. Tell all your friends, tell your enemies.
We don't care, love us or hate us. Just don't ignore us.
One more thing. Don't forget.
Rock!